Nothing else? You don't get as many questions from clients when the market's going up. They like that.
I'm getting a lot of them. So, and you covered a lot of them, which is the election and which side and the debt and the dollar. And so even when things are good, I still hear a lot of concerns, and clearly you're hearing the same ones.
Anything that you're getting that we haven't mentioned? It seems relevant.
I think that, what's the risk to all of it? And we covered it somewhat, but the risk to all of it is that the Fed's got this wrong. Recessions they don't come out of left field. They're always the result of policy mistakes, always. And you could argue that the policy mistake happened in 2021 into 2022 when they let inflation out of the bag, because that means you've got to raise rates substantially. Now, to all of our points, it has not had the impact that many had feared. And I'm sitting here arguing it's because there's not a lot of leverage or excess. But it's still PBD, right? And in my opinion, the inflation story is 2022. That story is over. So I think if the Fed's sitting here saying, well, we're not sure, is inflation going to reaccelerate? No, that was a supply pent up demand story. Inflation's, to me, that's not the issue. The issue is the growth backdrop now. And let's get on with it. I mean, I don't call them because I know they wouldn't answer my phone calls, but it's time to start easing. And the risk to this is that they stay tight for too long. And again,
Brian, if they did take your call, right? The whisper now is 25 or 50 basis points, or 0.25% to 0.5%. If they did accept your call, where would you tell them to stick it, or at least put the rates?
I think the rates there.
I think the rates there.
Well, I would have already done a couple of 25 this year. I don't need to spook the market with 50 maybe in September, but I would want to start normalizing the yield curve. And so if short rates are if long rates are at 3.8, well, I've got to go 150 basis points to be below that.
Yeah. And where do you think they ought to settle?
Well, I would think of it from the perspective of, is 4% fair value for the 10-year treasury? And, how do you get to what the fair value is? Usually it's representative of the nominal growth expectations for the U.S. economy over the next 10 years. So can we do 2% inflation, 2% real growth? Yeah, or maybe even a bit higher than that. So 4.5 seems reasonable to me on the 10-year. Historically, the funds rate's 150 basis points below that. So what does that get you to? 2.5 to 3?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to follow up on something there you mentioned, Brian, because a lot of this we talked about when it comes to elections or parties in power, that, the markets are pretty resilient and they don't really care who it is. But you also just got done talking about policy leading to recessions and decisions made. Now, obviously, we're aware monetary policy and decisions made by the Fed are separate than politics. But I know that people listening, clients could hear, policy can impact, and they immediately go back to, well, if one party gets elected to the other, that means that's policy change, and that's going to be a recession. So can you kind of distinguish between the two there, what your thoughts are when you're saying policies have led to the recessions?
Yeah, thank you. I should have qualified it. Monetary policy typically leads to recessions. The only thing the government can do is if they create a lot of uncertainty around where we're going, and consumers and businesses just can't make plans. Think about the trade wars in late 2018, where we just didn't know what the outcome was going to be. You could end up with a drawdown in economic activity because you're uncertain. But as long as policymakers give clarity, so as long as the government gives us clarity, like you might say, well, if Kamala Harris wins, we're going to lose the tax cuts. Okay, yeah, things might be slower as a result of that. But do we have clarity around it? That's what matters more with regards to the federal government. When I was saying that policy mistakes cause recessions, I meant the Fed, monetary policy side.
Perfect.
How long would you say those decisions? This is something, again, we talk to clients about a lot, that making a monetary policy decision, it's not like a light switch. It doesn't turn on the next day. I mean, how far out are those? If you cut rates or you raise rates, when do you really see the impact of those decisions?
18 to 24 months. Sometimes, we used to say 12 to 18 to call it 18 months. And so Fed raised rates 22 months. Fed was done raising rates 22 months ago.
Here we are.
Yeah, and here we are.
Or they inverted the yield curve.
I think like a lot of times people, again, not a longer term vision that, you do this and when, you hear that the Fed waited too long, well, again, it's what's going to happen over the next 18 months from today, not what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks or in a month based on what they do the next meeting.
Yeah, and I don't ever want. I'm an empathetic guy. I don't want people to lose their job. I don't ever want to risk a recession.